Oh, there it goes, it's slabbing.
A public avalanche bulletin is basically a compilation of information that's spelled out in English as to what the conditions are like in the backcountry.
Basically, what sort of dangers are we looking at?
The forecaster and a team of wardens will go out during the day to selected locations to make snowpack and weather observations. We come back to the office at the end of the day, collaborate with our colleagues, and then we write the bulletin from there. In addition to these fixed study plots here, we also go out into the backcountry and we'll run test profiles to get more of a feel for what the snowpack is doing and the weather is doing throughout the mountain range.
The information that we use to produce avalanche forecasts comes from what we call the InfoX, or Information Exchange.
Which is a daily exchange of weather, snowpack, and avalanche observations from hundreds of different heli ski operations, cat ski operations, Ministry of Transportation, snow avalanche programs.
So today, our team of forecasters is out here checking out this slide and doing an accident investigation. In northern BC, it's some heli ski operation. There's a bunch of guides collecting information about a snowpack. In Whistler, the patrollers are out there doing their thing. And at the end of the day, everybody will come back to their computer, submit all that data, and then every avalanche professional across Western Canada will be able to pull that up on their computer tomorrow morning.
We post our bulletins on our website at avalanche.ca, and they're also obtained through a toll-free number that you can call up and get all the bulletin regions. A lot of the bulletins are posted at backcountry access areas on ski hills.
The biggest thing in the winter is the constantly changing conditions in the mountains. And a way you can monitor those changes on a daily basis is by going to the Avalanche Bulletin.
Well, the three weather factors that affect avalanche conditions the most are precipitation, whether it comes in rain or snow, temperatures, and wind. So if you can get a good handle on those factors and you combine that with some experience, you can start to produce a basic avalanche forecast. With regards to the public avalanche forecast, we're making a good estimation at the time of what the current conditions are and then projecting into the future based on experience, knowledge, and weather products. When you're trying to predict the weather, sometimes you're going to be wrong, and I think everyone pretty much knows that. If we extrapolate that back over to the snowpack and avalanches, there's a great analogy there. You know, it's one of these deals where, you know, if we're having a hard time pinpointing the weather, we can also say that it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly where the avalanches are going to occur.
This is the Canadian Avalanche Danger Scale, which is an international standard that rates avalanche danger for backcountry recreationists. It's a 5-level scale. It starts with low, which is green, where natural avalanches are very unlikely and people triggering avalanches are unlikely. Travel is generally safe. Normal caution is advised. When you move into the moderate danger, natural avalanches are still unlikely, but people triggering avalanches becomes possible. This is when you want to start using extra caution in steeper terrain.
You know, you can absolutely get caught in an avalanche on moderate and low days. In my mind, a moderate avalanche danger is pretty serious, especially if you start pushing the terrain a little bit more.
Considerable danger. This is the danger where most backcountry recreational accidents happen. And this is when natural avalanches become possible, but people triggering avalanches is probable. The next level is high, is red. Both natural and human triggering avalanches are likely. This is the point where when travel in backcountry areas is not recommended. Extreme danger is the red with the black border. That's when we expect widespread, naturally occurring avalanches. Travel should be confined to low-angle terrain, well away from any avalanche paths.
Well, in Canada, we divide up the danger ratings into 3 bands. That's below tree line, and in the alpine. Each one of those bands gets a separate danger rating, and the reason why we do that is because conditions change with elevation.
My name is Pascal Haegli, and the Evaluator is a card that helps people make better decisions when they go into avalanche terrain. There's 2 parts to the card. On the front, there's a trip planner, and then on the back side, there's this list of obvious clues. So the trip planner basically helps you choose an appropriate trip for the current avalanche conditions. You use it when you're planning at home. So you read the bulletin from the avalanche.ca website and you get an avalanche danger rating for the area you're hoping to go into. On this chart here, green is normal caution, Yellow is extra caution, and then red is not recommended. Basically take the danger rating that I have and I combine it with the terrain rating of the trip that I'm hoping to do. And then I see sort of where I end up on this card. And, normally I try to stay in the green zone, and once it gets into the yellow, it definitely raises some flags for me to be extra cautious. Simple terrain is basically areas where there's lots of options to hide from avalanche hazard. You can travel through trees and you can completely avoid avalanche hazard in that area if you pick your routes carefully. Challenging terrain, you're more exposed to avalanche hazard and there's less options for you to choose. You're still sort of dealing just with one hazard or one path at a time. Complex terrain is generally high alpine where you can have multiple avalanche paths coming together and threatening one area. There's not really much options in terms of completely avoiding avalanche hazard. So it takes more skill basically to maneuver through this terrain and make sure that you don't expose yourselves too much.
You know, the danger ratings are just a snapshot picture of what's happening, but it doesn't really allow us to give a good description of what's actually going on. The text does. Really read all the way through that avalanche forecast. The beginning of the bulletins that the Canadian Avalanche Centre produces have primary concerns, and those are the driving factors we feel are most important behind the danger ratings and what concerns you the most. So if you pay attention to those first primary concerns, that'll really help you out in assessing the snowpack while you're out there. The travel advisory section in the bulletins is a place where we try to give advice to people. We say, hey, you know, this is how we'd like to see people use the terrain to stay safe. And we'll often make hints in there. So I think the meat of the forecast actually for people is in that travel advisory. The avalanche activity section in the avalanche bulletins describes recent avalanche activity in the mountains and what we think may happen down the road. If anywhere, that's where I'd be taking notes. We've been seeing avalanches on such and such aspect at this elevation. You know, when I read the weather section in an avalanche forecast, I always think, you know, how is the weather going to drive the avalanche conditions? By understanding what the weather is going to do for the day, it can help you figure out where you want to go in the mountains. So, is a storm coming in? How much will the avalanche danger rise? What sort of weak layers are being buried? And ultimately, it's all about terrain. It's what type of terrain can I go ride today?